And we do wish you good morning. You're listening to Power Talks with Melody and Beth Ann in the morning, where talk is real, truth is in the talk, and there is power in truth. And we say good morning. Good morning, Melody.
And good morning. Good morning to you, and good morning to the listeners.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, I was we're going to just jump right into things here. Melody's got quite a bit, and we've got actually things. We've got things. Well, you were telling me quite a bit. We've got things on the opposite end of the spectrum today, because we don't always get to connect as to what we're going to talk about. We all search news for our shows, and then we just kind of fly with it. Well, last night I was watching, and you know, we talk about lots of things, but it is about bringing this nation back together, and it is about protecting our children. Now, I don't have the information in front of me, but I was watching last night as they were talking, and Tucker Carlson was ripping into somebody as to why they're being allowed to do this. Facebook is now going to target the children. Now, parents should have some say in this. I mean, you cannot get your kid a tablet. You cannot let your child on Facebook. You can control some of these things. But they have an effort. They're going all out to target young children, kindergartners, and get them on social media. And we all know that it's not a good thing. It's not a good thing. And a lot of this other stuff that's been coming out, you know, the government officials are all these greenie weenies or whatever you want to call them that want you to believe climate change. You're only supposed to believe the scientists that say that. You're not supposed to believe the scientists that don't say it. And you have to accept the ones that do, and the ones that don't are just phonies, you know, even though the ones that do claim climate change are also the ones who got money from the government to claim climate change. However, when it comes to the biology, we're supposed to throw that out the door now. And we're supposed to accept the transgender. We're supposed to accept whatever a child says they want to be. Remember, we talked about that last week, Melody. You know, if the child decides they're black when they're white, or they're white when they're black, they never seem to choose white. Or if they want to be something else, then that's
well, I was going to say they
accept that.
I think we said it too. They used to want to be policemen and you know, firemen, and now it's a whole different story. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
It is a whole different. No, you're fine. Well, this is coming out of Kansas, and the Republicans there are standing up to transgender lies, protecting the kids from harm, and it is about protecting our children. It is about protecting the future of this nation, although we have an awful lot of people in this nation that think it's okay to kill the future of this nation through abortion. In 1856, it says in this article, and it was written by Eric Teetsell, Teetsell, T-E-E-T-S-E-L, and it's coming from the Daily Signal, which is part of the Heritage Foundation. It says in 1856, a new political party held its convention in Philadelphia, and they called themselves Republicans. I thought that was kind of funny, in a violent skirmishes in Bleeding, Kansas, foreshadowed the Civil War, the delegates took their stand, resolving that it is both the right and the imperative duty of Congress to prohibit in the territories those twin relics of barbarism. And they claimed the twin relics were polygamy and slavery. And it says this legacy of moral clarity and courage is the inheritance of every Republican. So if you're a Republican or a conservative or whatever, I don't know, I'm not putting any Republicans on a pedestal. I'm just reading an article here. It was in the spirit that the delegates of this year's state convention of the Kansas Republican Party passed a resolution regarding human identity. The delegates of the convention affirmed God designed for gender and as determined by biological sex and not by self-perception, and resolved to oppose efforts to validate transgender identity. They declared that public schools should not undermine the values of parents who do not agree with the transgenderism, which is what we had talked about last week, and that students have a reasonable expectation of privacy and safety at school. For the majority of Kansans, it is stunning that basic biology is now debatable, much less that to defend it is considered undignified, crass, and hateful anti-science. I don't get that one at all. Just the opposite is true, it says. In fact, it says the resolution affirms the dignity of every human being, including those who identify as LGBT. Compassion and concern for the well-being of others is what motivated the statement, there is no love in a lie. So it goes on in this article, and they really are fighting this to keep the boy bathrooms and the girl bathrooms separate in the schools. And it says in 2016, parents in Derby, Kansas were shocked to learn that their high school's locker rooms, bathrooms, and other private facilities were to open to students on the basis of gender identity, thanks to a guidance document issued by the Obama administration. That's what made that happen. And just last month, it says here, a judge in Ohio revoked the parental rights of a couple who wouldn't allow their minor child to begin sex reassignment procedures. It says here, as I finish this article up, we didn't ask for this fight, but it's here, and I put in, we cannot ignore, and we must protect our children. It says the rapid and widespread attention received by the Kansas GOP resolution indicates just how entrenched the lie about human sexual identity has become in a short amount of time. But it also tells of the thirst that good citizens still have for truth. It says, let's be people who have the courage and compassion to tell it. You know, we are always afraid we're going to offend somebody or get sued by somebody, so we don't say anything. But it is up to us to be the adults and protect these children. These children are confused. You know, we've read other articles. I saw another one this morning where it was coming from this university professor, and they quit allowing transgender operations to. It was a medical university, and they're not allowing it because they don't understand that the patient it does the patient no good. I know I had that earlier, but anyway, it talks about the rate of suicides that is in that, and maybe it was in this article, and I skipped over those paragraphs. The rate of suicides was high. It was here it is. It says fellow Kansans are suffering and dying because of the lies that one sex is whatever a person believes it is. The rate of attempted suicide for those who experience gender dysphoria is 41%. 10 times the national average. Those who undergo the gender reassignment surgeries are 19 times more likely to commit suicide. You know, I saw on Tucker Carlson last night, they're sitting there talking to this crazy physician, and the physicians they're going to question you. Well, they've been doing that since Obamacare came to be. But they're going to question you about whether you own a gun or not because, you know, it may not be safe. You may have a little depression or a little sad day, and it may not be safe for you to have a gun in the house. And he kind of went off. I mean, he went off on her. But they do that, and then they ignore this. 41%. Now, these people, these children that can't figure out who they are, that's what adults are for, is to help them. To help them accept who they are and become the best that they can be where they are and who they are. Not tell them, you know what, why don't you try being something else today? You know, it's just we have to stand up to this absurdity and these lies and protect the children. Just flat and simple. That's my opinion, anyway.
Well, absolutely, and you know, it's this is an agenda that
yes.
You know, goes so against you know, the family values. Even they're conditioning. Well, they're conditioning adults to accept the consensus that, you know, children have the right to be who they want to be. I remember I shared this story on the program not too long ago where a family member went to the doctor for her annual checkup and was asked if she was confused about her sex. And she delivered her two babies there. This was the same doctor that delivered her 2 babies, and they asked her if she ever had thoughts of being the opposite sex. Someone else told me they went to their heart doctor, and doing the preliminary, questionnaire that they sit down and you have to fill out and so forth. The same question was basically on the application. Have you ever had thoughts? Are you sure do you really believe you are a male or a female?
That's like walking up to somebody and say, don't think about elephants. They're putting this in their head is what I'm trying to say.
In their head. They're
putting it in their head.
They're putting doubt. They're putting doubts in people's head. And so when you have a young child, well, my doctor was, asking me about the same thing. It's insanity.
It is.
It's evil.
Melody, when you go back and you read in the Old Testament, thinking of the story of Sodom and Gomorrah, and when you read that story, look at the violent reaction of the men in that town, in that city. Now, I'm not sitting here saying anything about Sodom and Gomorrah and the United States of America, but we have come so far. What happened in Sodom and Gomorrah is not just about being gay. It's about a complete turning away from God, a complete ignoring and turning away from God. And that is just one of the symptoms. You don't know who you are anymore because you don't even know who your Creator is. But what I'm trying to point out is if you go back and you read that, the violence, the adamant violence in the men that wanted those angels that came to Lot's house. I never quite understood why the father said, I'll give you my daughter. No, we don't want her. We want them. The violence. And you look at the adamant, violent behavior. They get angry. You have to see the gay parades, and you don't want to watch those gay parades. They're anything but moral. They're anything but modest.
Even if they acted like a normal human being, but they don't. But it's something else. It's also a mixing of cultures that we're coming to see this.
Yes, you're absolutely right.
And because, in the Saudi Arabia, in those countries, they view it differently. Mm-hmm. They don't consider themselves homosexuals. The person doing the act is, they look down on them, but, they those that are, I don't know if I'm going too far for a radio show in the morning, but they view it. There is an acceptance, and you hear all the time, well, the Saudis don't like. No, that's not true. They view it differently, to where it's more acceptable. But again, I think it is mixing of cultures that is part of the problem. It's not the whole problem, but it is part of the problem.
Well, it's they've asked us to tolerate, but tolerate differences when it comes to some things it's not tolerance, it's acceptance. You have to completely and 100% accept it, and if you don't, then you're the one who's the bigot, you're the one who's the hard to get along with, you're the one who's wrong, and they don't want anything to do with you. We're going into a break, and we've it is about the family. And it is about the children. And we have got to stand up and protect these children and quit accepting these lies. Talk back. Stand up for what's right. 717-300-1218 is the number to call. 717-300-1218. And Melody and Beth Ann will be right back.
Hear it first on FirstAmendmentRadio.com and FirstAmendmentRadio.net. Gold and silver is tremendously undervalued. Global demand vastly exceeds mine supply by more than 60% annually. There is little in the financial world more certain than a coming explosion in the prices of gold and silver. The U.S. dollar continues to lose value and respect as the world's reserve currency. Our nation faces challenges on many fronts, and a day doesn't pass without another economist bringing forth warnings of impending economic calamity. There has never been a better time than right now to acquire physical gold and silver. Discount Gold and Silver Trading was founded on the principles of truth and honesty. We believe in providing a quality product, quality service, and most importantly, competitive pricing. We provide all forms of precious metals, including American gold, silver, platinum, and rare investment and circulated coins. Silver bars, rounds, and 90% silver bags are on hand for the silver investor. Gold self-directed IRAs are available. Call Discount Gold and Silver Trading at 1-800-375-4188. Toll free, that's 1-800-375-4188.
I know you all want answers, and believe me, so do I, and I'll do my best to get them.
Have you seen the Left Behind movies? Have you read the Left Behind fictional book series? Not everyone believes Left Behind is true prophecy. Some may even regard as conspiratorial the mainstream re-release of the Left Behind movie with actor Nicolas Cage portraying the main character as an attempt to further reinforce in the minds of all this perception of false prophecy in order to condition the masses for the play about to begin. Because they see the world stage shaping to fulfill what they have been led to believe is sound biblical interpretation, a left behind rapture scenario, this false view of prophecy is reinforced in the mind, not only of its adherents, but also includes those who have been merely exposed to the specific media. Is it possible that false prophecy can be fulfilled? The rapture theories have always been in dispute. Pre-trib, mid-trib, and post-trib disputes have risen up in exclusively evangelical circles of recent history, so that when true believers don't suddenly disappear, this element will easily go by the wayside when all see a new Jewish temple begin to be built. Will this be part of the great delusion that will come upon the whole earth? It seems that this great prophetic delusion has already overcome practically the entire American evangelical and Christian world. Get the book, The Rapture Will Be Canceled. To learn more, visit crosstheborder.org. That's CROSS, crosstheborder.org.
Years ahead of the dominant media, FirstAmendmentRadio.com and FirstAmendmentRadio.net.
Listen to Power Talks with Melody and Beth Ann in the morning, where talk is real, and there is power in talk. And I hope that I energize some people to speak up and stand up for what is right with our children. You know, I'm not saying to go and point your fingers and put other people down. I'm saying protect your children from policies that are going to be harmful, and like this bathroom issue and some of these other things. And raise your children in the way they should go. It says they will not depart from it. Sometimes they do depart from it, but they might come back. And you've got to instill the truth into the children, not a lie. And that's what this is. These things are lies. And I'm proud of Kansas. I'm a Missourian, so we don't always like Kansas, but I'm proud of Kansas for standing up and doing the right thing in this issue. And I say that. I've got a boy who lives in Kansas. So anyway, what else have we got this morning, Melody?
Do you feel better?
I feel better now. I got that off my chest. I'm taking care of the children. My little motherly instinct. They're taking care of the children.
But you know what it is? It is they're attacking the children in that aspect, and look at all the media, the programs. I mean, they're after for. They truly are after the children and the conditioning. And look how these youngsters in Florida have reacted, and it's. But you know what? It's we allowed it to happen.
We did.
We didn't protect them 20 years ago and 30 years ago, and so there's all kinds of blame to be passed around. But blaming doesn't fix the problem.
No. And some of these kids are coming out and they're talking, and they're not all agreeing. We've got the kids on both sides as well, which I'm kind of glad to see that. But I don't like either side necessarily trying to influence the children. I'd like to see them just educate the children and let, you've got to nurture and educate. But I have two, and I'm just going to barely touch on this, okay, and then we're going to move on to what you have this morning. I have two little articles about that, and they're both coming from the Daily Signal and the Heritage Foundation. And the one is, I go to a school where an attack was foiled. And here's why I'm against limiting gun rights, and this is coming from a Nicole Martin. And it's an article about that and how there was help there in that school, and it foiled an attack. Now, we didn't have an attack here, and I meant to mention this to you yesterday. It was in the news. In this little bitty town where I live, 2 students decided to threaten at the school, and they got arrested. You know, so you do see, you know, we talk about copycats. You do see these kids. Kids don't have enough to do today. They really need to have stuff to do. Then there is an article here, also from the Daily Signal. It says that this is an Ohio program, and they're training teachers in 12 different states to carry. And I thought that one was very interesting as well. And that people are fighting back. I think they are recognizing it. You know, I shared, this is Wednesday, I think it was maybe Monday when I shared the article about the inner city. Why aren't the inner city schools ever attacked with these mass shootings? Well, it's because they've got such high security, because they are in such a high violent area, you know, crime. And so the security there is just over the top. And so they don't have that. And here we argue and debate back and forth whether to remove all guns or to arm a teacher that's willing to do that, or a coach or a janitor or some administrator or somebody else that's on the grounds of the school, or to hire guards. You know, that just makes sense to me, to hire guards. But I hate it that we're at that point in this country. Wouldn't you love to have another revival where the police don't have anything to do? Wouldn't you just love to go back to that day? Don't have to worry about locking your doors. And
I read a long time ago that if we just followed the 10 Commandments.
No, my daddy used to say that. That's
just
all you
the 10
need.
Commandments.
All the 10 Commandments.
You wouldn't need a police force. You wouldn't need military. So you wouldn't need jails and prisons. You wouldn't need so many of the things. I mean, if we just followed the 10 Commandments.
You know, I'll get off my soapbox here in just a second, but, you know, going back to what you just said, of course, everybody doesn't do that. None of us have been able to keep all 10 commandments, and that is why we have a Savior. That's why we have a Savior. But if the American people, you know, we talked years ago, you know, they talk about the creationism and Darwinism. You know, then right then and there, you start telling the children they're monkeys. Well, then they're going to act like little monkeys. And right then and there, you're confusing the kids from the get-go. And we have a lot of adults that are confused right now on that. So they take away the Creator. So if the Creator created you male and female, and you decide, well, I don't want to be that, I want to be something else, you've denied your Creator. Again, you've denied your Creator. So all of these things are removing God from your life. You're going, I don't need Him. And when we talk about Sodom and Gomorrah, it's not just about the gay issue. It's about a complete and total denial and falling away from God. And I see that happening in this nation and in this world. And, of course, you know, there's only one answer, and that's to draw back and come back to Him. Repent, get on your knees. I'm laughing, but it is the truth. Okay, I'm off my soapbox. I'm turning it over to Melody now.
Oh, well, I'm having an easy day here, so. But, you know, there's, you know, tariffs has been in the news a lot, and, you know, discussions, you know, some are for, some are against, some think it's going to create jobs, other think it's going to lose jobs, you know, something, you know, so, you know, I think most everybody is against free trade. We want to have fair trade, and my personal belief is, you know, if we do tariffs, you know, we'll see a little bit of an impact, kind of like the tax cuts. You might see a little bit of an impact, but over, you know, years and years and years, I don't think so. But, you know, we'll just have to let it play out.
Can I say something real quick on that? I noticed this morning that, because I go back to the Daily Signal, which is part of the Heritage Foundation. I don't agree with everything or every writer in that, but I remember just not so many years ago, they were for the TPP, and then all of a sudden they were against the TPP, and I saw an article, which is what reminded me of that this morning. I saw an article about them talking about how bad this tariff situation is going to be. So a lot of them are coming out against it. A few of them are for it, but I guess it just, because when you said that, it just kind of reminded me, some of them were against it and now they're for it, and is that going to happen again?
Well, I think you really have to wait and see, and it depends. We don't even know the details. Again, the devil's in the details. We don't even have any details yet.
It's just talk right now, isn't it?
So it's distractions. It's distractions. I think, it's one way to, weigh it, to see what type of an impact it'll have. You can plant the seed and see what happens and, watch how everybody dances, and then you can make your final decision on how they danced, because then it'll make you look good. So, there's a lot of ways that you can read, what has happened and so forth. But, we've had Gary Cohen leave. He resigned, the economic advisor to President Trump. He's leaving. There's I don't know anymore, because I believe no one really knows. Mm-hmm. You could debate the tariffs both ways, as you usually can almost anything. You can debate it and make sense, and we don't know how it would really play out until it actually happens, because no one really knows the future. No one has a crystal ball, because there's too many things to impact these tariffs in both a positive and negative way to really know how it's going to happen. So we'll just have to wait and see who they are going to eliminate. With the North American Free Trade Agreement with Mexico and Canada, I heard that they might be slashed from the tariffs and so forth. You actually have I lost my train of thought there. Something. I saw that we had a caller, and I'm going to blame the caller. It's all your fault, Joe.
Joe, you distracted Melody. We have Joe for Marcus.
So we'll just go to Joe as I recover.
Don't ever say we won't pass the blame. Good morning, Joe. I think we lost him. Oh, there he is.
Cool today, but still pretty nice. Thomas Jefferson said that if a nation wants to be ignorant and free, then it wants something that never was and never will be. We can't be ignorant and free is basically what he said. And when I listen to all this talk about the tariffs and what effect they're going to have, what I find is that there's hardly anybody that has actually bothered to study anything about economics or anything about history. And basically there's hardly anybody that knows anything beyond whatever sound bites the television has decided to feed them on the subject that day. And I don't know much. I'm not very knowledgeable about economics and history, but I have done some reading. I have done some study, and I know it's safe to predict that the tariffs in the future will have the same effect as they have had in the past. So we look at what effect they've had in the past. Okay, Karl Marx wanted free trade because he said it would destroy the middle class, it would increase the gap between the rich and the poor, and it would intensify class warfare, and class warfare is good for recruiting people for socialism. And Marxists and socialists and communists ever since have promoted free trade, for that reason. And now the history of our country is that all through the 19th and early 20th centuries, we had tariffs on most imports averaging about 30 to 40%, and the Republican Party during that time was a strong advocate of tariffs and protectionism, and they generally, they have the strongest voice in the economy at that time. And it was precisely during that time that we grew to be the strongest country in the world, the greatest industrial and manufacturing country the world had ever seen, with the highest standard of living, the biggest middle class, the best life for the most number of people that the world had ever seen before. So I think we've got absolutely nothing to fear from these tariffs. And if we look at where our present free trade policy of getting rid of our tariffs comes from, it comes from UN Agenda 21, which came out in 1992, and then immediately after that, NAFTA and GATT were passed and implemented in 1993 and 1994. And UN Agenda 21 says that the highly developed industrialized economies have to get rid of their protectionist trade policies so that their wealth can be taken from them and redistributed to the third world. And that is the free trade policy that we've been following. So I think, so what you can see is that there has been an ongoing trade war against us for a long, long time. All of our recent presidents have been fighting against us in this trade war. Trump is our first president to actually fight on our side in this trade war. And so of course, the globalists who want to destroy America, they're screaming that Trump is trying to start a trade war, which is going to help us. So I think we're just amazingly lucky to have Trump at this time, because he seems to understand this subject and be on our side, better than 99% of the people. And sometimes I think that America doesn't deserve to have somebody as good as Trump, because people seem to insist on remaining in so much ignorance about this subject. But like Thomas Jefferson said, if we want to be ignorant and free, we can't have the two. And so if we're going to be ignorant about this whole subject, we have to have a lot of economic independence to be a free and independent country. If we're going to buy most of our necessities from other countries, then we're going to be subject to the will of those other countries. Whoever you're economically dependent on, you're kind of going to be subject and a slave to them. And so to be a free and independent country, we have to basically have an independent economy so that we're not dependent on the rest of the world, for most of the stuff that we need to live. So I'm all for Trump. I think the effect of these tariffs is going to be good on the economy. If he would do even more along these lines, I think it would be even better. But this is a good start, and I think this is going to be very good for us.
Okay. I have a question, Melody. Thank you, Joe. I appreciate it so much. And he was talking about history. And just before we took Joe's call, I was thinking, I remember reading a long time ago, and I'm going to claim my ignorance as far as history, that there was a lot of controversy over the tariffs at the beginning before the Civil War broke out. The North was upset with the South, and it had a lot to do with money and tariffs, more so at that point in time than it did about slavery.
Right.
So do you remember anything in the details about the tariffs of that day?
Well, I mean, the principle of tariffs are good, and they usually are placed on, and yes, they can make a great impact. We can talk about history. I look to history as a way to see the future. But I'm also a realist, and I understand today the problems that exist. I'm not sure the same philosophies can some degree apply in today's world. They have to be adjusted. Now, the theory of tariffs, yeah, it all makes sense. And, even Bush put tariffs on. They didn't work. They took them off after a year and a half. If we get some relief, but it's all great to look at history, and it's all great to think that you know economics, and it's all great to support Mr. Trump. But I also believe you have to view both sides to really know the truth and to see the other sides of the coin. There's always two sides. Mm-hmm. And do I believe? Of course I want fair trade. Of course I want these tariffs to work great for this country. But on the other hand, will they really work at the time and place that we exist in this country? And do other things have to change along with it in order to make these tariffs work? So I don't think it's just a one-line item that can be applied that all of a sudden, we're going to have, unicorns flying behind rainbows across this country. It'll help. It might sustain us a little bit longer, but come on. Doesn't anybody really get the problem we have? And yes, it's great to see Trump in there. It's great to see. But you know what? Does anybody ever read histories on individual people? Oh, it's just business. Okay. So if one person is associated and got loan deals from Rothschilds, maybe because he's on the other side and a liberal, he's a bad person. But yet if you have a person that's a Republican and we're cheering for, but he's had loans in association with the Rothschilds, that's okay. That's okay. He's changed. It was business. How do we go from those extremes? How can it be okay from one person versus, oh, they've changed? Really? When Wilbur Ross, the Commerce Secretary, has been a Democrat up until 2016. Okay? Die-hard liberal Democrat. Is he getting old and all of a sudden now he has a conscience? He's used the steel industry, he's used the coal industry to get his billions of dollars, and now all of a sudden he's grown a conscience, and he wants tariffs to protect the American worker when he's taken away benefits and wages from American workers? Come on. Has he changed? I don't know, maybe. But we're going to have to wait and see, instead of just saying, oh, no, tariffs are great and blah, 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 blah. Yes, I want them to work. I'd like to see the tax reforms work. But devils are in the details, ladies and gentlemen. And if you don't care to read the details or accept the details to go along with the ice cream and cake, that there's a ton of calories there that's not good for you, we'll never know. And that's how we get into our problems. We want to accept the cheerleading, but yet we don't go any further, and all of a sudden we're accepting something and thinking they're going to take care of it. And guess what? They don't. And then we're into the next level, that all of these things have changed, and now we're moaning and groaning because, our liberties and freedoms are being eliminated little by little by little. All behind because we thought somebody was going to take care of us. We're the only ones that can take care of us. Each and every one of us has got to take care of ourselves. So I appreciate Joe's ideas and his thoughts and his reasoning. But you know what? There's a lot behind the scenes. And again, I didn't know. I mean, Wilbur Ross began his career in the office of the Rothschilds and Sons. He ran the bankruptcy restructuring advisory practice, and that's where he made all his billions of dollars. So, and they helped him out in the 80s when Trump was in financial trouble. Where did he go? Look at Carl Icahn. Carl Icahn bailed Trump out in the Atlantic City deal when he was running his campaign. Who sold his steel shares before the announcement on the tariffs? Carl Icahn. So we're just all supposed to forget that all this doesn't matter, and that, let's just
business.
It's just business.
It's just, and you made a point. It's not just the tariffs. There's a bigger picture to be watchful of, and I've said many times, and I'm just being honest. I'm not a financial whiz in the brain or anything, and it's I know the red from the black, I know, but to see a big picture of things on a global form, I'm not that kind of a financial strategic brain that I can figure that all out. There's much to consider, and I think we do have to just kind of wait and see. Will tariffs be bad? Will they be good, or will they be okay? Is it going to make a whole lot of difference? And there's just a lot of change going on right now, and this is just in the talking session. It's just in the talking realm right now. They haven't done anything yet, and everybody's in an uproar over it, but nothing has happened yet. So let's go to Tom in Michigan. I think he's got an opinion. Hey, Tom, how are you?
Hi, thanks for taking my call. I agree. This, we're going to have to wait and see, and this will give us information that we need. I have a college textbooks here on it's the Introduction to Price Theory, and it's all, graphs and mathematics and calculus and things of that nature, but it's garbage in, garbage out in mathematics. We have to have, it's like predicting the weather. We have to know different, weather services. They put up weather balloons. They measure barometric pressure, wind speeds, what have you, and in order to get a prediction of the weather. And then the closer they get to the day they're predicting, the better the prediction is. The thing I like about the tariff is that it's a legal tax that, and in the debates, in the constitutional debates, it was decided that it would be better for the people to have indirect taxes. And I like to quote from, this was Oliver Ellsworth was one of the drafters of the Constitution. He was also a chief justice, actually he was the third chief justice of the Supreme Court, delegate to the Constitutional Convention. In the case Pollock versus Farmers Loan and Trust, he's quoted on direct taxation. He says direct taxation can go but little way towards raising revenue. To raise money this way, people must be provident. They must constantly be laying up money to answer the demands of the collector. But you cannot make people thus provident. If you would do anything to the purpose, you must come in when they are spending and take part with them. And that was the case for indirect taxes, and a tariff is an indirect tax. I hear on the news shows where they're saying, this is going to be a tax on the American people. Yeah, but I mean, don't buy a new one.
All taxes are.
One.
Okay, and we're headed into a break. Thank you, Tom. We appreciate your call. We're headed into a break. 717-300-1218 is the number to call. You're listening to Power Talks with Melody and Beth Ann in the morning, and we will be right back.
Hear it first on FirstAmendmentRadio.com and FirstAmendmentRadio.net. Since the beginning of time, kings have sought it, nations have fought for it. It has been traded, it has been borrowed, it has been purchased, it has been stolen. There's a reason for it. To secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves and to our posterity. Invest with the security of gold and silver. Call Discount Gold and Silver Trading at 1-800-375-4188 or visit discountgoldandsilvertrading.net. Listen to Financial Survival with your host Melody Cedarstrom right here on FirstAmendmentRadio.com at 4 p.m. Eastern or 1 p.m. Pacific Time. Visit discountgoldandsilvertrading.net or call Discount Gold and Silver Trading at 1-800-375-4188. Toll free, 1-800-375-4188. The program you are listening to is 100% sponsored by you, the listener, on this First Amendment Rights Media channel. You will notice that there are few commercials on this radio network. There's a good reason for that. Corporate advertising dollars come with strings that limit program content. So without your help, these programs cannot continue on internet or our several affiliates. If you benefit by the educational law programs, we ask you to give. If you are admonished or nurtured by the Bible and ministry programs, we ask you to give. If some voice a cause that you are passionate about, we ask you to give. If you believe in any of these, we ask you to support them as you would a missionary on a continual basis, as if giving a tithe for missionary radio. These programs are not commercially viable and must be supported by those faithful to the cause of truth. Look for the button to sponsor your favorite programs at our listen and schedule pages on the internet. Then, when you subscribe, we will send you the last quarterly MP3 CD of that program immediately, and continue to do so with each new quarter. We will also give you unlimited archive access to all of our programs. We're asking you to give much less than a tithe, so that you may also send support directly to a particular program host, cause, and anywhere else the Spirit may lead you. Do all to the glory of our God and Creator, for His holy nation, the only kingdom that will last forever. Thank you for listening. Hear it first on FirstAmendmentRadio.com and FirstAmendmentRadio.net.
And we have returned. You're listening to Power Talks with Melody and Beth Ann. In the morning, we're in the final segment of today's show. It goes really fast. I remember when we first started this, it seems like we just thought, oh, how are we going to talk for a full hour on things? And we were really conscientious, emailing back and forth, what do you have, what do you have? And now we don't even talk until we get here. And it goes so fast, and the people think, yeah, I could tell. Anyway, what did the markets end up doing yesterday?
Well, gold had a nice day. A little pressure on the gold was up big yesterday. Today it's down a couple dollars, and we're going to continue the special on the 1/10 ounce American Gold Eagle and the 21 ounce American Silver Eagles. The date on those are 2018s, and I'm going to keep it at the same price as $550. Okay. Yes. But we had a big day in gold, and I repriced this last night. It should actually be selling for $560. So it's a really great deal at $550. But so give us a call at 1-800-375-4188. That's 1-800-375-4188.
And let me get it right. It's a 1/1/10 Gold Eagle and the 20 Silver Eagles, right?
That is correct, and it also includes all shipping costs. So it's a nice little package. Nice little package to get folks started.
All right. That sounds good.
Yes.
You had a lot of calls on that, too, so maybe you get some more.
Yes, we're running low at this price, so I don't know how much longer we'll be able to keep it at the $550.
But for today, we did.
But for today, for this program only. So make sure you tell either myself if I answer the phone or one of my other gals that answered the phone to take your order that you've heard the special from Power Talks.
Power Talks or the Crazy Twins, whatever. The girls. All right. We have Neil in Missouri on the line. Neil, how are you today?
Oh, doing all right. Staying warm, keeping the fire going.
It is cold, isn't it?
A little chilly this morning, yeah. Melody asked the question, does anybody get the real problem? Less than 1% of the population of this country get the real problem, I guarantee you.
Yeah.
Because for 40 years, I've been trying to put people on to what the real problem is, and nobody seems to get it. You know, it's real simple. God has a set of laws. He says you will obey these laws or you will suffer. And that's the bottom line. There's only 470 laws, and no one, absolutely no one, is bound by all of them. That's because if you're not a farmer, the farming laws don't apply to you. There are certain laws that only apply to men. There are certain laws that only apply to women. There are certain laws that only apply to the Israelites. There are certain laws that only apply to Nazarites. So nobody can possibly fall in all those categories. So you've got less than 470 laws you have to abide by. And people, just the other day I was at the library. Some lady challenged me, claiming, 470, that's too many laws. I said, come here. And I took her back to the shelf where the revised statutes of Missouri are. I said, now take a look at that. There's over 24 volumes, every one of them bigger than the Bible, and those are just for the state of Missouri. Now, you can obey all those, but you can't obey the 470 that God set forth in the Bible. I'm not buying that,
No,
but I mean, the Bible itself, what is the Bible? The Bible is a history book. It's the history of the Israelite people and what God did for them when they obeyed and what he did to them when they didn't.
When they didn't. You're right.
And if you read the Bible in that context, then you understand what the Bible is really all about.
Absolutely. Go ahead.
What always amazes me is when I have discussions about laws and so forth, and rights and wrongs. It's like, well, there's a very and everything is not black and white. There's a lot of gray, and a lie could be a lie, but it really isn't a lie. Or sometimes murder is really not murder. There's various degrees, and I just have never been one to buy it. A lie is a lie is a lie. I don't care how you sugarcoat it. A lie is a lie is a lie. you kill someone.
Right.
It doesn't matter. You kill someone, you murder someone. You can't sugarcoat it. And we've come to think that all of these things, and that's how everything is being stretched, and how accountabilities aren't being enforced. And a lot of that is a lot of our problems, I think, part of it.
Well, that's because most of the rules and regulations in this country are lies.
Yeah.
Oh,
They're
you're
telling
right.
you can or can't do something, but they're lying to you. That's not what God says you can or can't do.
Yep.
And if you know what the Federal Register is, the Federal Register is a weekly report put out by the U.S. government on federal rules and regulations that are passed every week that come into what they call law in this country. Okay. 1 week's worth. They set a new record in 2014, 3,400 new rules and regulations in 1 week. Now, those also include executive orders. Anything handed down by the feds comes out in the Federal Register, is published weekly. 3 years in the library I've been into, 3 years worth of the Federal Register covers a wall 12 feet long, 9 feet high, wall to wall, floor to ceiling. That's just 3 years worth of rules and regulations. It is impossible. It is impossible for anybody to even read all that stuff as it comes out, let alone follow it.
All they do when they create new laws is make new criminals or felons or whatever they misdemeanors or whatever you want to call them. You know, the 10 Commandments and the laws in the Bible, you know, they're there for our instruction and our guidance. They're not there, you know, everybody wants to look at them like they're slapped down and just, no, you can't do this, no, you can't do that. But it's not that. It's, you know, it's like when you tell a child, and I mentioned this the other day, not to touch a hot stove. You're not doing that to be mean and just to restrict the child. You're doing it to protect the child. And God is here trying to instruct and protect us. We need a lot of protection from ourselves, don't we, Neil?
Well, you only need the 470 laws. You don't need all the rest of the garbage that
I agree.
You know the sons of Satan are putting out. You know, all these legislatures throughout the country and in the federal government and in the cities and towns and every place else somebody wants to play God. That's what they're doing. They're playing God. You know, you got to do what they say because they're your God. No. That's idol worship. You do what God says and tell them to stick their rules and regulations where the sun don't shine, you know, because, and you can do this in court. You stand on your First Amendment right to your religious practice. And if you do that in court, you can beat them every time if the judge isn't, you know, a full-blown practicing Satanist. You know, if the judge is an actual judge, which we have very few of those left. 40 years ago, when I got started in this, you had a judge that sat there on a bench, and when you raised an argument, he looked at the prosecutor and said, "What's your answer?" That's changed over the last 40 years. Now the judge sits there, and he prosecutes you from the bench. You don't only have to deal with the prosecutor, you got to deal with a corrupt judge that's also prosecuting you.
Yeah.
So
and dealing with not just laws, but not just dealing with laws, which are too many and too confusing, convoluted, as a girlfriend of mine used to say, but you're dealing with the emotions in the court instead of you know, and opinions, and you know, it's corrupt. Neil, thank you so much. Appreciate it.
No, you're welcome.
I appreciate it. You know, Melody, it is simple, but it's so hard to do.
It's very complicated. Very complicated, hard to do, and
well, it's
you know,
actually,
because
I don't think it's all that complicated. I think it's simple, and that's why we have so much trouble with it, because we think it needs to be complicated. Just like he was talking about these walls, you know, just full of laws. There's no way you can read it all or know it all, more or less keep it all, and you know, it's. Man thinks they can outthink God, and I don't think that's going to happen. But,
well, it's difficult because there's only less than 1%, and that's about the number of gold owners in this country too. So you know,
we need to fix that. We need to fix that.
But that does make an important point. Everybody thinks that gold's not going to go up; that everybody's going to stay in paper and so forth and whatnot. And we don't need the 100% of investment population coming into gold and silver for it to do crazy things. If we get 3% of the investment population, which we probably will, maybe we'll even get 5%. That's all it takes. That's all it's going to take. It's such a small number, and everybody else will lose. That's how upside down the world or the people's finances will become. You're going to have 95% of the population that have retirement accounts and so forth, they're going to lose. And only 3-5% that have gold will be able to save a portion of what they have earned. So anyway, when he made that 1%, I thought that kind of apropos to gold also.
It really is. Well, I want to give you a number again. I hear the music. 1-800-375-4188. Discount Gold and Silver Trading. Give Melody a call. The new package, well, the package that's, at least for today, $550 for the 1/10 ounce Golden Eagle and the 20 Silver Eagles. 1-800-375-4188. Melody, it's been a pleasure as always.
As always. Thank you. Thank you, listeners and callers.
All right. Talk to you again tomorrow.
Bye.
We'll be back tomorrow.
Visit crosstheborder.org, CROSS, crosstheborder.org, to get your print, EPUB, or PDF version of Nicholas Arthur's new book titled When the Third Temple is Built. That's crosstheborder.org. When it comes to prophecy today, much of the evangelical Christian world has their eyes on Israel, waiting and watching to see when the third temple will begin to be built. The plans are drawn. The Jewish people are eager. Most evangelical Christians today believe that the rapture will happen before the third temple is built. Hi, I'm Michael Eugene. I was taught that Daniel's 70th week was in the future. Is that really what the Bible teaches? Have we searched the scriptures and found this to be true? Why is it so important for a re-established Israel to build a third temple in Jerusalem? Is it necessary to build a temple on the same location already occupied by the Dome of the Rock? Is it necessary for sacrifices to take place in the temple on Temple Mount? Is there really a rapture followed by 7 years of tribulation? What is the New Testament temple? Can we identify history and prophecy? Who is the first beast in Revelation chapter 13? Who are the 7 kings in Revelation 17? I have asked all these questions, and I have found Nicholas Arthur's new book, When the Third Temple is Built, answers all these questions and more using Scripture to interpret Scripture. The Bible says that no prophecy of Scripture is of any private interpretation. Nicholas shows us in his new book, When the Third Temple is Built, how the Bible interprets prophecy and not man's private interpretation. Visit crosstheborder.org, CROSS, crosstheborder.org, to get your print, EPUB, or PDF version of Nicholas Arthur's new book titled When the Third Temple is Built. That's crosstheborder.org.
The book of Revelation says, the spirit of prophecy is the testimony of Jesus Christ. This is at the very heart of FirstAmendmentRadio.com. In that spirit, we have created the Prophecy Reality News app for all of your mobile devices, streaming First Amendment Radio 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Available for your Apple, Android device, and smartphone, absolutely free. Get the Prophecy Reality News app installed today so you can listen to First Amendment Radio wherever you are. The Prophecy Reality News app. Get it now.
Since the beginning of time, kings have sought it, nations have fought for it. It has been traded, it has been borrowed, it has been purchased, it has been stolen. There's a reason for it. To secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves and to our posterity. Invest with the security of gold and silver. Call Discount Gold and Silver Trading at 1-800-375-4188 or visit discountgoldandsilvertrading.net. Listen to Financial Survival with your host Melody Cedarstrom right here on FirstAmendmentRadio.com at 4 p.m. Eastern or 1 p.m. Pacific Time. Visit discountgoldandsilvertrading.net or call Discount Gold and Silver Trading at 1-800-375-4188. Toll free 1-800-375-4188.